All right, this is a brief overview of elasticities, which for some reason, and I've been doing this for 30-something years, is something that students struggle with mightily. Maybe because there's more math involved, whatever, it doesn't matter. But here's an attempt to give an overview of it to take a little bit of the scare factor out of the number crunching that's involved here. All right, so what is an elasticity? It's a number that describes the strength of a cost. Start over. Edit out here up to this point. All right, we're going to talk about elasticities. Okay, and hopefully this will take some of the scare factor out of for students, but something about it causes students to struggle with it more than they struggle with other economic things. An elasticity is merely a description of a cause-effect relationship between two things. So if you get an elasticity for something, it's only meaningful if there's a reason, a credible, logical reason to believe that the two things that are being connected are actually connected, that there's a reason that a change in one would cause a change in the other one. Okay, so elasticities describe the strength of a cause-effect relationship. So let's say you estimate a price elasticity of demand, okay, and you get a -2. It's going to be minus because if you charge more for something, people buy less of it. Right? So a minus sign says there's an inverse relationship between the two items. Okay? So a price elasticity of demand relates the price of something to the amount of it that's purchased. All right? So let's say you do your number crunching. By the way, there's a lot of money to be made in finding these price elasticities because it's not easy. And the value is very, very valuable to those who know what it means. All right, so let's say you do that, and the result from your efforts, or you pay a consultant to do it, and they say, okay, for your business, for this product that you're selling, the price elasticity of demand is -2. All right, so what does that mean? Well, that means there's a pretty good cause-effect relationship between the price and quantity, that the effect measured in percentage terms is usually twice the size of the cause. What does that mean? Effect is twice the size of the cause. Got to pull out an example here. Suppose, Mr. or Mrs. Business Owner, what does this 2 mean to you? Well, that means if you raise your price 10%, your quantity sold can drop 20%. That's what the 2 means. The cause, the change in price, is going to have twice that size, measured in percentage terms, of the effect. Okay, so that's pretty good. That's, anything bigger than 1 says that the effect is going to be bigger than the cause. A 2 means twice as big. A -2 means that one goes up, the other one's going to go down. Okay, so if you charge more for something and you have price elasticity of -2, you're going to sell a lot less of it. Think twice. Now, one of the things about a big elasticity, like a -2, that's pretty big. And it could be even bigger, but it's pretty good sized. It means that the revenue and the cost are going to move in the same direction. What does that mean? See, that's one of the things about these elasticities. It's probably the least memorizable part of economics. And a lot of students, that's, to them, studying means memorizing. And doggone it, I think that's one of the reasons that the textbook authors stick that elasticity at the beginnings. Maybe persuade students not to do that by having an early crash in the effectiveness of memorizing something that they don't understand. You've got to work it out. You've got to think it through. Okay, so what I just said a minute ago, when elasticity is big, means more than 1 in absolute value, like 2. Revenues and costs are going to move in the same direction. Okay, so what does that mean? You got to think it through. Okay, so we've got our elasticity of 2. If I raise my price 10%, my quantity is going to drop 20%. Price times quantity, that's your total revenue. We're going to get to this graph in a minute. Okay, total revenue. Okay, price times quantity. If I sell something at a certain price, how many I sell times what I sold it for, that's how much money comes in. All right, so if I raise the price, quantity is going to go down. It's going to, an elasticity of 2, quantity is going to go down more than the price is going to go up. The revenue is going to go, what? Down. When you raise the price with an elasticity, price elasticity of demand of more than 1, the revenue is going to go down. And guess what? Costs are going to go down. That's what I meant. Okay, revenues and costs are going to move in the same direction. Whichever way revenue moves, if it goes up, costs are going to move up. Okay, whichever way, if it goes down, costs are going to go down. So if you raise your price with an elasticity of demand of more than 1, your revenues are going to go down and so are your costs. Why are your costs going to? How do we know? Well, because if we charge more, we're going to not sell as many. Don't have to make as many, you won't incur as much cost. Right? That's not that complicated, although it's like, but doc, how do I know the costs are going down? Well, you don't know by how much. See, and that's where you get into the marginal analysis. How do I know if I should raise my price, doc? Yes, the demand, I can't give it away. I got to raise it above 0. How far should I raise the price? Well, up to the point where the additional revenue from raising the price or lowering it matches the additional cost. Okay, so we raise our price. Okay, quantity is going to go down. Okay, so we start off over here, right? That's when we charge. Right, that's when we charge 0. Right, 0 times any quantity is a revenue of 0. Okay, so as we start to raise our price, our revenue goes up at first, right? Got to go up from charging nothing. But it's got to hit 0. It's got to peak out here and then go down. Okay, or if we're here, right? This is if we're not selling any, right? Price is too high. That corresponds to this quantity, right? At a price above this number here, our revenue is going to be 0 because we're charging more than anybody will pay. If we start to lower the price, the lower price is more than made up for by the higher quantity at first. Okay, and the revenue is going to go up. How do we know that's eventually going to end? Because the quantity is going up. That's increasing our costs. So you see on this first part here, the revenues and costs, as we're lowering the price, increasing the quantity, the revenues and costs are both going up. At some point, before here, the change in the revenues are not going to be enough to offset, right? Because the revenues are going up less and less and less. Costs are going to go up pretty steadily. Okay, so before we get to here, this isn't the optimal quantity, because before we get to here, the revenues are going to not be keeping up with the costs. Okay, so we say stop. Okay, another way to see that is, suppose the cost is the same no matter how many we produce. Okay, we would just put a TC line in there straight across. Okay, suppose that's rare that happens, but we see that for some things. Okay, it doesn't cost much more to put on the baseball game when the stands are full versus empty. Okay, cost is about the same, not much. I mean, a little more to clean up after the game and so on, with the lights, and the players and everything. Okay, so the maximum difference profit would be at that peak. Now, what if the costs go up as we produce more, which is normal? Where is the biggest difference between the revenues and costs? Well, not here, but somewhere where the slopes are the same. Okay, it's probably about right here. All right. So when we're charging a high price, too high, and we say, we're charging too much, lower it, the revenues are going up and the costs are going up. At some point, the additional cost is going to be more than the additional revenue, and we say, that's it. That's our best price. Okay, or if we're starting down here and we're not charging anything, we're thinking about, okay, how much should I charge? Okay, we're going to climb this, and our revenues are going to be going up at first, and our costs are going down. Oh, duh, right? We're raising our price from 0, and our revenues are going up, and our costs are going down. That's a no-brainer, right? That's going to happen all the way up to here. So we're going to go at least to here, and then past that, now we're raising the price, and our revenues are now going down, but our costs are still going down. So somewhere past here, right, we're going to find out where the additional revenue balances the additional cost and say, that's the best price. Okay, so back to this original thing about what an elasticity is. It describes the strength of a cause-effect relationship, right? So don't find an elasticity for something where the thing that you're, the P and the Q or whatever, the elasticity of how many dog catchers there are versus how many toothpicks are produced. Okay, I mean, you could relate the percentage change in the one to the percentage change in the other one, come up with a number, but it's meaningless. Okay, because those things are not related. Okay, but definitely the price of something is related to how much of it you'll sell. Okay, now, I keep saying this percentage term change thing. Okay, there's two different ways to find a percentage change. I'm sure this is part of the problem with the students struggling with it is, okay, I get this idea of Okay, it's a cause and effect relationship I'm measuring, and 2 is big and 3 is bigger, and if it's less than 1, it's not a very strong relation. I get that, but how do I get the percentage changes? Well, there's 2 ways. One is you can assume that the starting point is your base. Like if you're making $10 an hour and your boss says, you know, you've been doing a good job, $11 an hour for 9, so, oh, how big of a change that was. And your brain is going to say, 11 minus 10 divided by 10, well, that's 10%, right? 1 divided by 10, 10%. Okay, so you use the starting 10 as your base. Okay, now another way to do it, that's the normal way to do it. Okay, but another way to do it that might be more meaningful for large changes in something would be, okay, the price used to be 10 and I'm going to raise it up to 15. Wow, that's a big change. The elasticity based on where it was, that's not very meaningful for decision making. How about an elasticity based on sort of the midpoint? That's called the midpoint formula. Okay, so let me just illustrate 2 examples of it. Suppose something changes from 9 to 10. Okay, so here's how we get our percentage change. The change divided by the starting point, okay, what is that? That's 11.1%. I skipped a step, right? If you do this, the answer is 0.11111. I multiplied by 100 to get the percent. Okay, so another way to do the same thing would be called the midpoint formula. Okay, you take the 10 minus the 9, that's the change. To get a percentage change, your base is now your starting, it was halfway between your start and end point. Okay, you see it makes a difference. According to my pre-calculations, that number is 10.5%. Okay, so hopefully that's demystified that a little bit. There's 2 ways to find a percentage change. The only difference between the 2 of them is whether you use the original point, right, as the base, okay, or halfway as the base, the midpoint formula, right? You'll get a different number depending on the 2 of them that you use. It'll be in the neighborhood, okay? Now, the rule of thumb is that for large changes, use the midpoint formula. For small changes, use the point formula. Now, for your exam, use the one you're told to use. It won't be a mystery. It shouldn't be. Your professor should tell you which one to use. Okay, but practice with both of them to see the difference. Seeing is believing. Practicing is the key to studying, not memorization. All right, so there's a whole bunch of different elasticities. Again, all of them measure the strength of a cause-effect relationship. The one we've talked about so far is the most important one, the one you'll make the most money if you can find it empirically, which isn't easy. But there are others that are important. Suppose you want to figure out how income sensitive your business is. Okay, so you pick up the phone, you call a consultant, says, you know, I've been noticing these businesses have these ups and downs as recessions and economic recoveries and growth periods go back and forth. Before I invest in my business, I would really like to know how sensitive my sales will be to the ups and downs of the economy. The other person on the other end of the line, that's the economist, says, you know, the translation in their brain as they're listening to this is, okay, I'm going to find the income elasticity of demand for this business. Okay, I'm going to find out how sensitive their sales are to changes in the overall income level. So in that case, the cause and effect relationship would be between Q, the D there, in case you can see it out there, quantity demanded, and income. Economists typically use the letter Y for income. So it would be the change, percentage change in the quantity demanded per some cause, the change in income level. And this would be a case where, let's say you got 3 out of this. Well, that means per 1% change in the overall income level, your sales are going to change by 3%. It means your sales are pretty income level sensitive, pretty sensitive to what's going on in the overall economy. Typically, you would get something like that for a discretionary purchase, okay, a luxury maybe, okay, a high income elasticity. I got the money, yeah, I want it. Money's a little tight, now I'm going to do without. Okay, you would get a low income elasticity of demand out of necessities. Okay, now necessities, yeah, food, but there's different kinds of food. So, you know, for overall, yeah, for food, definitely overall, definitely income elastic, it's called. But for any given type of food, you know, people would say, you know, I like these when I have money to spend, but it has a cheaper substitute. the economy is going down, and my income is not so certain, I might get laid off, maybe I better spend a little less on food and just eat different things. Okay, so overall, generically speaking, food being a necessity would have an overall very low income elasticity of demand. Finding this number, you'd get something like 0.2 or 0.3. But for a given type of food, for retail sales, for example, you might find that overall, there's going to be some suffering, but particular types of stores might do well. For example, Walmart did pretty well during the last economic slump here from 07 through, well, it's pretty much still going on to some extent. Why is that? Well, because people went from upscale to downscale. Okay, Walmart has the use of the phrase, because it might be misunderstood, as economists would call, as an inferior good. And it's not, I shop at Walmart all the time, so I don't. That phrase means that income is inversely related to the quantity purchased, because people switch to it, buy a lot more of it, instead of a more expensive substitute. Okay, so stores like Walmart, maybe even Target, not Neiman Marcus, do well when the economy slumps. And Neiman Marcus would probably have a very high income elasticity of demand. Another example worth going through, cross-price elasticities of demand. Again, cause and effect relationship. In this case, you would have price of B affecting the quantity of A. This is a cross-price elasticity of demand issue. Okay, now, why would you bother to find a cross-price elasticity between unrelated goods? You wouldn't. It might still be correlated. You might still get an elasticity. They just wouldn't be cause and effect related. So first, make sure you have a theoretical, logical basis for these goods to be related. Peanut butter and jelly. Yes, a lot of people combine peanut butter and jelly when they eat one or the other. So one of those could be peanut butter and the other one could be jelly. If the price of one of them changes, it'll definitely affect the purchases of the other one. For peanut butter being B and jelly being A, you would get what? A positive or negative cross-price elasticity of demand. Let's think that through. Again, there are too many combinations for memorization to do something other than for most mere mortals to short-circuit that process and misremember it. So I don't even bother to try to remember it. Okay, I'm going to just work it through. Let's see. If the price of peanut butter goes up, we would expect fewer peanut butter and jelly sandwiches to be eaten. Okay, so the sales of jelly would go down. Okay, so if you figured a cross-price elasticity, it would be negative. Right? The one goes up, the other one goes down, like this original one. The price elasticity of demand for a good, that's negative. The cross-price elasticity of demand between consumption complements is also negative, right? That's what we just did. Peanut butter and jelly are consumption complements. They're used together, not by everybody all the time. And see, that's what the size of the absolute value of the number of the cross-price elasticity would tell you, is how close are they in terms of their complementarity. How often is peanut butter consumed jointly with jelly, right? If you were to make that estimate and you got a cross-price elasticity of demand of +3, you would say, nope, I screwed up that estimate. It's got to be negative. Rerun the numbers. Something went wrong. Don't believe that. Don't report that to somebody because they'll think you're, well, they won't think much of you. Okay? It's got to be a small negative number, right? Okay, because not everybody that eats peanut butter eats it with jelly. Okay, but some do. Okay, so that's what you would expect. You would expect a small negative number to be the cross-price elasticity of demand between peanut butter and jelly, reflecting that some users of peanut butter don't eat the peanut butter unless they also consume it with jelly, but not everybody. Right? Some people like their peanut butter on celery, okay, or whatever, or some have honey with peanut butter rather than jelly. Okay, so what about the converse? What would a actual, believable, credible, large, positive price elasticity, a cross-price elasticity of demand tell you? That would tell you that their consumption substitutes. The price of the one goes up, the quantity of something else goes up, right? something you use instead of something else, maybe apples and oranges. Price of apples goes up, you buy more oranges because you can eat one in place of the other one. Would you expect a large number for that? I don't know, maybe. Do a lot of people see oranges as a close substitute for apples in terms of that afternoon or morning snack? I don't know, probably not. Probably a larger cross-price elasticity between apples and pears, for example. And those are closer, you see. So that's what the cross-price elasticity of demand is going to tell you, which again is valuable to some businesses to understand that so that they know when other market prices change, how that will affect them. Okay. The first one we did was, how's the market price for my product going to affect my sales? Much more important, but still quite important is, I'm product A. What are all the things that are used with product A? What are the things that can be used instead of product A? Changes in those markets are going to affect me, and the measure of that size of that effect, a single number that tells us many things, is in that case a cross-price elasticity of demand. And there are many elasticities. They're only meaningful if the things are actually credibly cause and effect related.